Well, hello everybody and welcome to Lunch Break Live. Real talk about obesity, food addiction, recovery, and what's really eating you. On today's show, I am freaking out. Seriously, I am freaking out. But before I tell you why, I should probably tell you who the heck I am. I am Carrie Dela Cruz. I am a 2007 gastric bypass post-op, living life in recovery from obesity and compulsive overeating as twice the woman in half the body. Now, like I always do, I've got to find out who you are. I want to know who's here. So let me see. Let's see, who's made it? Mom, front and center, right up there at the top. Thanks, Mom. Hi, Marie. Glad that you made it. I'm also really glad that I am live. All right, you guys. So I got a few people milling in. Howdy. Hey, Greg, welcome back. I haven't seen you in a couple of episodes. So glad you're here, and thank you. Thank you so much for your support. It means the world to me. Thank you so much. I hope you did hear my shout out to you in an on-demand viewing. So, yes, indeed. Friends indeed, Marie. Boy, we are creating a community of genuine, understanding, compassionate friends here, aren't we? And as you will hear me say later, and as I continue to say, obesity and compulsive overeating and those diseases that we battle want us to think we are alone, and we're not. And that is, if there's one thing that this show does, I hope it is to prove to you that you are not alone. You're not crazy. In your craziness, and that we are all in this together. All right, so hey, Leonore, so glad you made it. And I have a new viewer, David. I don't know that I've ever seen you. Welcome in. So glad you're here. And Lisa, familiar viewer. All right, you guys, so this is an interactive show. I told you that I am freaking out. That is what this show is all about today. So, time for some interaction. You guys got to let me know what the heck is going on. It's your turn. I want to know, you ready? What freaks you out the most? Just give me one thing, that seems to cause you the most panic or grief, or, the one thing that can send you around the bend. Whatever it is, go. Just put it in the comments so I know what's going on. All right, I'm going to watch for your responses. Hey, Tina, I'm glad you made it. And Steve, you're here live. One less gallbladder to talk about, right? I'm so glad that you're here. All right, and Becca, hey, you made it. You want to see my freak out, huh? All right, so I need to know what freaks you guys out. Just give me, a short answer that says, you know what? The one thing that will send me around the bend every time and make me want to eat is blank. Let's see. Greg says, having to go be with people when I'd rather stay home. I second that emotion, Greg. I am a homebody. Hey, who else is here? It looks like, okay, Ratira, am I pronouncing that right? You are a new viewer. Welcome, welcome. You may be an on-demand viewer, but I'm really happy to see you live. All right. And Laura, you made it. You're here for my freak out too. So Becca says the thing that freaks me out, she said, is worried about not getting my revision. Okay. And this causes panic, right? This causes anxiety. And what do we want to do? This stuff eats us up. We want to eat, right? Let's see. Steve says, you're dropping in quickly, Laura Van Tyle. Well, I am glad you are here. And feel free to share this show, of course, with the groups if you think they want to know why the heck I'm freaking out. So Steve says, when my workload exceeds my bandwidth, I eat. Boy, I understand that one, that desire, Steve. It does eat us up. Yes, Ratira. Did I get that right? Ratira? I hope that I did. It's a beautiful name, unless I'm butchering it. So anyway, all right, you guys. So what freaks you out? I want a couple more things. So it looks like work freaks us out. Our physical situations, circumstances, like with surgery revision, Becca says. And what was the one up here that I read first? Having to go out and be with people when you'd rather be home. So again, it's a social thing. So it seems like we kind of have a range of things that freak us out, cause us panic or anxiety and bother us, right? Shoot me some wow faces if you're like, oh my gosh, I know what it feels like to freak out. That way I know that you're here. And Nancy, hi Nancy, another one of my patrons. Thank you so much, my friend. Worrying about my adult kids and what they're dealing with. Oh boy, you guys are hitting them all. I really... Whew, okay, I'm seeing them out. Wow face, wow, bring them, yeah. Okay, so we understand what it feels like to freak out. Oh my gosh. Now this morning when I was talking about what the show was going to be about, I was talking about things like fear and anxiety versus love and peace, okay? And really, when we are freaking out, that is the furthest thing from recovery, right? All right, and thank you, Laura Van Tile, for sharing the video. I hope more people can join me while I'm still live. All right, so again, as I always remind you, this is an interactive program. It is very, very important that you guys do interact with me by, if you feel it, say it, share it, write about it, whatever it is, so that I know that I am making sense, that things are resonating with you. And then that also makes it go a little bit higher with Facebook, so other people who aren't familiar with me, like my new friend Ratira, can find me. All right, guys? So yes, please continue to be interactive. And I can always see when I watch back, you know, what parts you guys fell asleep and, you know, where you were really happy to be here. So, all right. Oh, no, Facebook dropped you. Well, that's a reason to freak out for sure, Mom. All right, so thank you guys for all the hearts. All right, so why am I freaking out? That's what this is all about, right? All right, let's see. This weekend, clearly another weekend of anxiety and fear in the world. I mean, if you guys were watching the news or if you were on Facebook or any social media for that matter, okay, you guys saw a lot of reasons to freak out. I mean, again, in London, those poor people. And there are some WLS, weight loss surgery community people that were there. Eve Humphreys being one. She checked in and said she was safe. And also Rebecca and I can't remember her husband's name. Whiting. I don't know. It'll come back to me. But I asked you guys to check in, and you did, and you let me know that you were safe, so thank you. See, that was a reason for me to freak out and panic. I wanted to make sure that people that are in the danger zone are okay. And if you didn't know, if you were under a rock in London, people were run over by a van and then stabbed to death. It was pretty horrific, okay? And then, oh yeah, here there was an angry mob in Portland. And I mean, there's just, I think, a general sense of unrest and uneasiness and fear. Not a lot of contentment, not a lot of peacefulness. You know, which is the very antithesis of recovery. Now, you have heard me say that I am very, very familiar with fear. Fear is one of my go-tos when things become overwhelming, or when I feel out of control, or when I feel disappointed. Sometimes when I get depressed, you know, and I get anxiety-ridden, and I want to freak out. That is my familiar go-to. In the past, this just ate me up. And the way that I would try to seek comfort, of course, was how else? In food, the way so many of us do, which of course gave me about this much peace. Yeah, which is none at all. It actually made me feel more unhappy, more miserable, more depressed, and afraid. Okay? And yet, that was what I did for many, many years. That's what many of us do until we break the cycle and we realize that that is not creating peace or comfort or calmness. And it's not dealing with, it's not helping us with the problem at all. It's making the problem worse. So what that tells me is input really does affect output. That's really the bottom line. Our input really, really does affect our output. I want you to think about this for a minute, okay? Junk foot. There is no such thing as junk foot unless you have athlete's foot, but that's not what I'm talking about on this show. Junk food in, junk feelings out, junk news in, junk thoughts out, junk attitude in, junk behavior out. Do you guys agree with that? Is it too oblique? You know, you put crap in, you get crap out. That's really the bottom line there, all right? They are connected. They're absolutely unequivocally connected. So anyway, yesterday, I started to feel really panicky and needy, and I don't know if it was a result of the news entirely or what it was, but I felt like my grandpa used to say, like a fart on a skillet. I was just like, okay, just like wanting to climb out of my skin, all right? And I decided to reach for my recovery tools instead of reaching for food, which I had always done in the past. And I was doing my best to just stay in the moment, deal with what is and not what isn't, deal with the present and not what could happen in the future, which is a lot of, you know, what anxiety feeds on, where fear lives. It fears in the unknown, the uncertainty, and typically in the future, what possibly could happen. So what I did is I sat down and I watched Autopsy, the final hours of. Oh my God, there's an upper for you, right? Learning how people die from their poor choices. Great. So I'm anxiety ridden and I tune in to Autopsy to find out how people died. Garbage in, garbage out. Hello, pretty direct connection there. All right, so I finally changed channels though. This was the good news. And I caught the second half of Aladdin. I love Aladdin. And I was starting to sing along and I was starting to feel better. And then I started getting really sad about Robin Williams. Oh my God, such a talent. I just really got sad because there was also an autopsy show on him. And so I went right back to it. Okay. I got sad. I didn't get happy for very long there. And I'm being honest here. Okay. I am being honest with you because that's what this show, it's a daily show about stuff that I'm going through that I think maybe other people are going through as well, but you should know that everybody struggles. Okay. In other words, it's not just you. I am struggling too. And so the point is not that you struggle, it's what you do about it that makes the difference, okay? If you are eating because things are eating you up, guess what happens? Now you have bigger problems. You have more to struggle with. You have physical struggles, you have emotional and mental struggles, right? Okay, so that's what this show is all about. It's saying, okay, let's not add to the problem. Let's not make it bigger than it already is. Let's look at it for what it really is. Now, anxiety and depression, nothing to mess with. If you even thought they were like something to trifle with, which I can't imagine you would, they are not. Sometimes there are medical reasons behind the feelings. Absolutely. So I'm going to take a moment here to remind you of something that I cannot say often enough. If you are dealing with overwhelming and unmanageable anxiety, please see a doctor to discuss the problem. If you are dealing with overwhelming and unrelenting depression, please see a doctor to discuss the problem. If you find that watching this show brings up things that freak you out, please see a therapist. It's really, really important, okay? Because remember, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm certainly not your therapist, okay? So if stuff comes up, please get help. Do not try to work through this on your own, all right? Input, output. Got it? Okay? All right. You need good output, whether it is medication or therapy or both. I cannot say enough about that if you want to have good output, okay? That's that good input. So therapy, medication, or both, right? That will yield better output, I promise you. All right. So back to my freak out. Of course, it's always about me, isn't it? Okay. Freaking out is the antithesis of peace, which means it is the enemy of recovery. Absolutely. Recovery cannot possibly live where freakouts live. They don't live together. Remember on Friday, I talked about how faith and fear don't live together? Yeah, same thing with freaking out and recovery. Nope. Antithesis of peace. So if I'm freaking out, that's telling me that I'm not living life on life's terms. I am living life on my terms. Mine. I'm making up the rules here, right? Which are pretty uncertain and scary because last time I checked, I can't possibly know what the next moment is going to bring. So I make it up as I go along, right? All right, what can I do about that? Well, if you understand what I'm talking about, what can you do about it? That would be, yeah, what you're like, okay, great, Carrie, I don't care what you do about it. Tell me what to do about it. All right, let's work on this together, all right? I always say that it helps to change the scenery. That's kind of my thing, change the scenery. And that means physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And that does not mean run away from the problems. I think what that's doing is saying don't let the problems run away with you, okay? You're not running away from the problem. You're not letting the problem run away with you. So change the scenery physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, okay? So yesterday was Rosary for Peace Day. Someone had invited me to this event a couple of weeks ago, and I said, sure, I'd like to go. And then it popped up and said, today's the day. And I said, really? Well, I should probably do it then if I said I was going to go. So I did my rosary, okay? And I asked God for peace in the world. I did that. And I don't normally do that on a Sunday afternoon. I mean, I go to Mass and everything else, and I get all filled up, and I try to spend the day with family and whatever, but I don't typically pull out my rosary on a Sunday afternoon, though maybe I should, because it really, really helped a little, okay? Because I was praying for peace in the world. Maybe I should have been asking for peace for myself as well. Anyway, then I decided I was going to work on a talk that I'm going to give on the 19th down at Orange Coast Memorial for a support group down there for their bariatric support group. And I'm like, okay, I was reminded that your input affects your output. And since my input was questionable, I'm pretty sure my output was going to be not the rosary part, all the other stuff was going to be very, very questionable. So definitely that talk was not going to be good if I started working on it yesterday. So I set that aside in favor of watching TV, which we now agree was totally not the best idea considering my choices there, the whole death by addiction thing. Yeah. So let's see. So I did change some spiritual scenery, and I did try to change some mental scenery. And then I went out and washed my car, which is like changing the physical scenery. And it's because it's watering day. Sundays are watering days in Southern California, Sundays and Wednesdays. Okay, so I'm allowed to do it as long as I don't waste water. So I use like a bucket and just, anyway, satisfying and distracting. It's really hard to be panicked while I'm cleaning my car if I'm concentrating on cleaning my car. And I did go to bed reasonably happy. All right, so did a lot there to change the scenery in my life. All right, and then I woke up and I listened to the news and talk radio. Input, negative output, panic, fear, uneasiness, anything but peace. Again, okay, so I prayed a little, and then I decided to turn off talk radio and finish the morning in silence, okay? And then on the freeway, I blasted some Michael W. Smith, and I decided I was going to sing to soothe my soul, okay? Blasting church music out the sunroof. Hey, you never know, right? Prayed for the driver behind me. Back off, please. All right, and it worked. They changed lanes. Gosh. Okay, so anyway, all right, so I guess what you're hearing from me, if you could kind of like distill this all down, is that sometimes dealing with fear can be a moment-to-moment thing, but you can't give up and you can't give in. You have to keep fighting. Now that I'm at work here and I'm working on like work stuff, it is a lot better. So that just shows me that the input is very important, and that does affect the output, all right? And when I'm worried more about the input like work, then I don't have time to focus on my anxiety, except for the time that I'm spending writing and preparing for this talk today. So, I got in a little anxiety there as I was thinking about what I was going to talk to you guys about. But that's okay. If I weren't writing this, I'd be experiencing even more peace. But I'm getting more peaceful as I'm talking about it. It's really important to know that I'm not alone. So if I were to make one suggestion, aside from changing the scenery, like the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual scenery, right, it would be to talk back to your fear. Talk back to your fear and be bigger than it is, okay? Because it always wants you to think it's bigger than it is. Does that make sense? Talk back to your fear and be bigger than your fear is, all right? Call it out. And here's what I do. What is the deal here? What? And I'll use that tone like, what the heck? Like snap it out of that malaise or whatever. What is the big idea? Why are you so freaked out, Carrie? What is the evidence of this? All right? And I ask myself these questions. Now in the past, again, I used to eat, so I didn't have time to ask myself or listen for the answers. And when I listen to the answers, guess what I usually hear things like? This is what I hear. I'm afraid this could happen, or that might happen, or I don't know what I'll do if I'm faced with this. I don't think I can handle that. That's what I hear. And it's very specific to the event, whatever it is. But in other words, it's uncertainty. That's what's getting fed back to me because I'm living in the future. This might happen. What will I do if? I'm not sure I can deal when. Well, that's in the future. That's not right now. That's not saying I can't deal with right now. It's usually in the future. That's why I'm afraid. So I am worrying and putting a down payment on a house of worry I'll never live in, which is like paraphrasing something that someone put on my wall, and I can't remember who it was now. I apologize. I'll thank you later. But anyway, and I did paraphrase it anyway, but it's true, right? I'm putting a down payment on a house of worry I'll never live in. Forget that. So I get it. That's what I want you to know. I get it. Anxiety and fear are very powerful, and they are very oppressive. They weigh you down. You want to know what's on the scale when you step on it? I guarantee you it's how you fed your anxiety and your fear. So that is why it is so important to keep moving forward with our recovery. That really is the answer, you guys. That really is the key. And that's why we have to use those tools that are in our recovery toolboxes. The ones that say, call a friend and tell them you're thinking of them. Pray for that person you have a problem with. Oh yeah, that's a biggie. Do something healthy for yourself. Listen to inspirational music. Go for a walk. Go to a 12-step meeting or call your sponsor. Go to church. Do your rosary. See a therapist. See your doctor. Do the work. So activate. Do something. Get outside of yourself. Use your recovery tools. You'll notice I did not say go eat a cupcake or drink a beer. I did not say that, okay? And of course it's not easy. I mean, I get it. There is big stuff happening in this world. There is big stuff happening with you guys big stuff that I can't even begin to imagine. Some of the stuff that I hear back from you guys that you're dealing with it sends shivers down my spine, and I just think, I cannot imagine, what it's like to live with that. But I do know that you are stronger than you think you are. We are stronger than we believe that we are. We think we're the sum total of all of the bad stuff that's happened to us, but I prefer to believe that we are stronger because of the stuff that has happened to us. So I know I am not here being a Pollyanna or saying, it's not a big deal, get over it, suck it up, buttercup. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, though, that when we let the fear run away with us, we do things that are unhealthy because we want to try and block it out. And that's the furthest thing from what recovery is all about, and it's the furthest thing from peace. So, of course, it's not easy, but it is doable, you guys, and I promise you, I'm living proof of it, okay, sitting in front of you here today doing this show. And, some days are better than others. They really, really are. Some moments are better than others. And since I've chosen to live my recovery, this is the important part that when I sat still and thought about it, I realized, since I have chosen to live my recovery, even my worst days sober are better than all of my best days of untreated obesity and compulsive overeating. You got that? Even my worst days sober, the hardest, most challenging days sober, are far better than what I would have ever considered to be my best days of untreated obesity and compulsive overeating. So it is worth it. And guess what? I have a great track record of surviving. So far, I'm here and I've survived every single day when life has thrown something at me, okay? So that's really the message I want you to get. So just for today, before I sign off, I want you to know you aren't alone. That's really, really super important. Your disease wants you to think you are. Our diseases want us to believe that we are alone, but we are not. Your disease wants you to think it's hopeless, but it is not. Your disease wants you to live in fear, but you don't have to. You don't. Not as long as I'm here sharing my truth, okay? As long as you can listen to me with even part of your mind and know that maybe what I'm saying has some merit and that you're going to be okay, then I've done my job. So I do want to thank you guys for being here, but before I sign off, and I will come back and look at all of your comments, and I so very much appreciate them, and I see these things flying by, all right? And I will comment on them. Let me just see after I make my announcements if I have a bit of time, because I don't want to go past that 30-minute mark, okay? Number one, few announcements, okay? Someone that I really respect and I have known for a number of years has offered to sponsor LBL, all right? Lunch Break Live, for you guys that don't know the acronym. LBL, all right? But because I'm not usually someone who talks about products or sponsors, promotes products per se, specifically, necessarily, I need to be sure it's beneficial. It is not something that I struggle with or suffer with, but I know that there is evidence that many people with obesity do suffer with this, and I am talking about migraines. So here's what I would like to know. If anyone in the viewing, listening audience suffers from chronic, severe migraines, and you are interested in maybe participating in a test of an all-natural product that will not in any way, I verified this, interact with your medications, because I said, does this interact with antidepressants or heart meds or cholesterol or high blood pressure? Nothing. It's all natural stuff, okay? But I want to know that it works if I'm going to be talking about it. So if you guys have chronic migraines, severe, PM me, we'll talk about it, and let's see if I can get, arrange for a few of you maybe to participate in this study, and then we'll see how it goes, all right? So before I do that, I would like to offer that to you guys. All right, so that's number one. Number two, I would like to say, if you guys do enjoy joining me for Lunch Break Live, and you feel supported, I want to invite you. I'm super excited. I announced it last week. It's just really, it's growing, and I'm very excited about it. Why don't you consider supporting me as a patron of the show? Of course, this program will always, always, always be free. But if you become a patron of the show, I'll be able to do even more work and offer more things to everyone. All you have to do is go visit patreon.com, patreon.com/real recovery. I will put it in the comment notes for the program, all right? Because you get pretty cool rewards. My patrons get, nifty stuff. I mean, you can be my patron for as little as 25 cents a show. which is like $5 a month. If you're in the upper tier, like the joy level patron, you can earn private session time with me, which again, some people have said they would like to do, and that's great. I would love to do that with you guys. So, and of course, recognition here on my show. My newest patrons, a quick shout out to you, Kathy and Nancy. Thank you so much for being my sponsors. Thank you truly from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate the fact that you appreciate the work I do enough to become my patron. So that's that. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I can just look briefly. I just don't want to go off the rails too far here. And speaking of the rails, going off track, I put an interesting, there's been an interesting conversation on my wall today that I think may become a show. I love it because it's very interesting for me to hear what people think. My question was, people talk about getting off track and needing to get back on track. And I thought, is there a reason, that you get off track? Do you feel like you're restricted and you don't like rules, and the reason you quote get off track is because you don't like being on track, and then the idea of getting back on track is not a guarantee that you're going to stay there, because you're just going to get right back off the rails because you don't like the straight and narrow, maybe. Is there a mental part of that? So there was some interesting conversation there, including people discussing whether or not food addiction really exists, and then someone else came in and talked about compulsive overeating versus intuitive eating, and so there's really good conversation going on out there. There's certainly no right or wrong answers here. There's only answers that benefit us and help us in our recovery, and that's really all I'm interested in offering here. So thank you guys for your input, which definitely does affect my output. So much conversation going on here, and I don't want to cheat you out of good feedback or follow-up or dialogue. So let me take a look at it. I will respond offline, and I encourage you, if you're watching this show not live but on demand, let me know that you're watching on demand, and absolutely comment as you're watching the show, because as you will see, I do go back and comment on your comments. All right. Thank you guys so much for being here again. Patreon.com/realrecovery if you would like to become one of my patrons, so that I can continue the conversation of recovery and grow this community so that we can begin to feel some more peace. All right, you guys? So thank you so much. I'm going to sign off and remind you all to have courage, seek peace, embrace joy, and above all, live your recovery. Remember, you can't stop feeding what's eating you. If you don't know what's eating you, I will see you guys tomorrow. And remember, if you have a migraine, serious, chronic, PM me. All right, you guys? Take care. Share the show. Bye.